Alright, here we go with the Algebra 2. And I was going to go over and do a new lesson for you today, but with the determinants, it might be a little bit harder to go through. And I have noticed there are some people that have not finished their assignments, and with the 2 games last night, might not have it. So instead of doing some new material, I'm going to go through and give you a little bit of review. And then today's assignment will be a worksheet that has just 20 problems on it. So first off, we're going to go lesson 9. So the things that one actually was with ones with the matrix. And you know the matrix, you can use the calculator to put them in. You know about the adding one, because the matrix when you multiply is kind of tricky. But let's just go through. Remember when you had 2 and 0, 0 and 2, and you're adding it to -3, -4, -2, and 0. On that one, you're just adding your integers. So 2 plus a -3 is -1. 0 plus -2 is -2. 0 plus -4 is -4. 2 plus 0 is 2. So that was just the things about when you're going through and adding them. If you had to multiply, let's say we had 5 in front of this one. All you're doing is multiplying each number by 5. 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 0, and so this one actually happens to be that one. So that was just multiplying those things on that part. So we won't dwell too much on that one, but there's a couple of matrix ones. And you got to know how to use whichever calculator that you're doing. Next one, lesson 10. That was when you're solving and graphing inequalities. So if we had 3 times t minus 4 greater than -6t. So you'd go through and solve. My 3 is not very good on that one. So multiply, so we have 3t minus 12 greater than -6t. Your choice of which side you're going to put it on. Usually we like to put the letters on this side when you have an inequality in that one. So we're going to add 6t, add 6t. It gives me 9. And then put this one over here, plus 12. So 9t is greater than 12. You have to solve that. Remember, we got to divide by both sides. So t is greater than 12 over 9. Which reduces to what? That would be 4 over 3. Or 1 1/3. To graph it then, you don't have to make a really big long number line. Just do a small one. Decide where you're going to put the thing. We got 1 1/3. This means that it's an open circle, and that's the way that it's pointing. Put down a really big arrow there so that you can tell which way it's going, and also indicate, the circle on it. All right. Oh, when you are doing things like, if you go through all that work and that, you end up with, let's say, -2 be less than 8. So if you get down to this part and you have a negative number here, if you divide by a -2, that switches that. So you have to switch that to it. So this one would be b. That has to switch the other way, and then you have your -4. That only happens when you have a negative number when you're dividing. Okay, that takes care of lesson 10. Then we moved on to lesson 11, which was polynomials. And I think everybody was doing pretty good on that one. So the polynomials, because you have terms. And whenever you write those terms out, you always go from the biggest exponent to the least. So if I have 5 minus 2y plus 2y to the third minus 5 plus 4y3. First thing you do is you have to get all of your like terms together. The biggest exponent I have is the third, so I'm going to put this one together with this. So 4x3 and a 2x3 is, well, whoops, 6x3. Then this is the only 2y that I have. Keep the sign in front of it, so minus 2y. And then, of course, I got 5 minus 5, which is 0. I'm going to leave that 0 right there just to see. If they want to know what is the leading coefficient, that's the number in front of the biggest exponent, x. The constant, then, is the number all by itself, no variables on it, so it would be 0. So you have 6 and 0 for that one. All right. And we know about adding. Okay, oh, the inverse, direct, and joint. That came up on today's, last night's assignment. Remember that you have inverse. And I know this marker's not doing too hot, so let me grab my other one. Okay, inverse. That's when k was equal to x times y. So the constant is equal, and you're going to multiply the two variables together. The direct, the k was equal to the y over x. So you're going to be dividing those. When you have joint, you have 3 variables to do. So the joint one, and I'm just going to put x over yz, or it might even be xy over z. Any combination of that depends on when they how they state it at the beginning. So that could be any way that you've got. So one way I'm going to show about the joint one is last night's assignment had daisies varied inversely as sunflowers. So we have daisies varied inversely, so that means we have to multiply it for the sunflowers. And then the rest of it said, and directly, so directly is when you're putting it underneath, with the roses. So that is what is equal to k for the joint one. So once we get the equation set up, now you can put in the numbers. So if we had 65 daisies, 15 roses, and 3 sunflowers. Okay, so you had 65 daisies, and 15 roses, well that goes on the bottom there, and 3 sunflowers. And that all equals k. So then you can go through and use your calculator to solve. And by the time you get all that, k would equal 13. So you have to read and set it up first to know which way it's going to go. All right. And the last one we just finished doing last night was going over your graphing. You have to know about slope. Remember, the slope is the rise over the run, which would be subtract the y's, subtract the x's. So that's if you do it or just by doing it algebraically. You can graph it out and see, and then count, how many up and how many over. The other thing we were going over was y equals mx plus b. That's the slope, and that's the y-intercept. So those are the things in here. If you have a slope that is going uphill, that means it's positive slope. If it's going downhill, it's a negative slope. If it's going across as a horizontal line, that's when the slope is 0. If the slope is straight up and down, that's one where you have like 5 over 0. Because you can't divide by 0, that's the undefined. Because it will go up 5, but it doesn't go back and forth. So those are the different things that we've gone over for the last week or so. So today's assignment will be the worksheet. And there's just, I used one of the forms and wrote it out myself. So hopefully you can read my handwriting. Get that done. And so that'll be actually due on Monday. If you get it done, go ahead and put it over in the teach folder over there. And then that's all that I got, so have a good weekend.